Hello, everybody. Today is April 6th, and today we're doing government and security.
That's exciting.
What else is new with you guys? You had a good week?
2021 is 25% gone, and it's really triggering my existential crisis.
You know what sucks? Cold lawn care.
Yeah.
Cold lawn care is not fun.
I had to turn the boiler back on today.
Oh, it's supposed to be warm again tomorrow. It'll be back up in the 60s. My radishes, they'll be thriving.
I was, because I came here to drop that stuff off yesterday, and there's all those nice, I don't know what kind of trees those are, but they're the white petals on the flowers. And it was just swirling around, and I was like, oh man, this is so magical. Look at all these flower petals just swirling around. And I was like, wait a minute, they're melting. It was snowing yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't see
Not
the
great
snow.
for the old garden.
Yeah, so weird weather, but that's nothing new for this year, is it?
We're talking about the weather. We've got to talk about like other things.
Well, it's not going to get any hipper, because when you talk about old people, there's a lot of them in this organization, and once in a while they do stuff. This is one of those times. They're like the cicada. They crawl out from underground and they make decisions.
Terrible decisions. The New York Times reports that the Supreme Court has let the F.C.C. relax its limits on media ownership. Well, they already did it. This is, Ajit Pai's F.C.C. It was just this Supreme Court challenge took a little while to get there, like you were saying, the cicada thing. The Supreme Court said, yeah, this is totally fine. It's totally okay for just a couple of people to own literally all of the media. No, unrelated to that, did you see that YouTube TV added like CNBC and a lot of like the contemporary TV channels, and the dislike ratio is incredible.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to add that story. You know what they're doing in response to that?
Getting rid of the dislike counter.
But it's not because of that. It's because of the Biden speech. Did you see the Biden speech? The ratio was crazy. And the next day, they made that announcement.
It's not good for creators' mental health. You know what? There's a lot of things that are not good for creators' mental health, like changing the algorithm arbitrarily and not communicating. And when the algorithm makes a mistake, not ever fixing the mistake. Those
Just
things are
general dystopia we live in. It's not good for anybody's.
Floatplane.com/level1 or patreon.com/level1.
Level 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so transparent.
It really
They're
is.
doing there. But what are you going to do? I mean, we're in an age where it's all kind of out in the open. You can't really be surprised by it anymore.
It does. But hang on a second here, because okay, blah, 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 pro-capitalism. Doesn't it suggest that if the dislike ratio is so high that there is a market for something that is not so blatantly terrible?
You mean like our government replaced that with something that's not terrible?
No, just the media aspect of it.
It's the same thing at this point.
Doesn't that mean that YouTube is becoming less egalitarian and more just another apparatus of the machine?
No, it's not
I think
becoming.
That's been happening for a long time. Yeah.
It is.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Just
It's obvious what it is. It's obvious what they are catering to.
store.level1text.
It's not calm.
That is not the only decision the Supreme Court made that has to do with the tech world. This one is a little bit weirder because I guess you did technically opt in.
No. This is one of this guy's. This guy had a shadow profile.
Oh, he wasn't even a part of Facebook?
No.
I didn't get that from it.
Yeah. Supreme Court says Facebook text alerts aren't illegal robocalls. So somehow this guy was on Facebook, but not really. He said his lawyer said that he didn't really have a Facebook account, so maybe he
What
had
does
one and then
didn't
canceled
really
it.
mean?
Yeah. So
Where'd they get the phone number? That's the question.
Well, Facebook did collect those. I mean, that was a thing that they did.
But I mean, if he typed it
But you
in,
had to have a profile, yeah. I've never heard of them getting it without you making a profile.
I'm sure they get it, but they probably don't use it.
He was getting an ungodly number of text messages because the bots were trying to break into his account. And so he was getting text message alerts that's like, hey, somebody's trying to log into your Facebook account. And he couldn't stop it. So this. Which is not exactly the same.
I had that situation one time with Blizzard. Because somebody tried to use my email address to create a WoW account or something like that. And then when I finally got in touch with them, I did a chat and then a call. They were like angry at me. I was like, just delete everything about this email address from your service. I'm never going to use your service. And they're like, well, no, you might be using that maliciously. Which I guess I could have. But yeah, the Facebook thing, basically they're saying that, and the ruling is even worse than just like, no, it's okay because they already had the number. The rule is it has to be a random or iterating phone number to be a quote unquote robocall. If they're going from a list, it doesn't count.
Yeah, that seems like that opens up the door for these terrible auto warranty scams.
Don't you think that all those Indian call centers are working off some kind of advertising list?
You would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're not, they're
Randomly.
stupid. I mean, that's going to improve your results amazingly if you start with that.
This is another story that makes it, what is it you say? You want to hate nap? We were just warming up.
Oh, yeah.
Get ready for it.
You probably have to go all night with this one. You just have to. This is your normal sleep cycle. You can't nap long enough to get this hate out of you. The full 8 hours. But on the other hand, one of the best stock images I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fantastic. I was about to say that.
Absolutely incredible. And Krista, you should start collecting snail shells, and we should make these and sell them.
On the store. Do you think
Yeah.
anyone would buy them? Tell us in the
Yes,
comments
they
below.
absolutely would.
'Cause-
I found some
Handmade.
snails out in the garden the other day, and I was like, you little bastards.
Well, harvest them.
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
time.
they're tiny. They're really tiny. But,
But this, you know what? We always get a lot of engagement, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't really hurt my feelings, but I understand they are, trying to poke us, and we do deserve it. Whenever we talk about something about internet speeds in the U.S., all the international people love to post what they're getting for what price. We get it. We get it.
we know.
AT&T lobbies against nationwide fiber, and it says 10 megabit uploads are good enough. All right, I'm fine with this if AT&T retroactively refunds the tax breaks that they've taken since 1992 in order to wire a bunch of households with fiber. They literally said in 1993 that they were going to, AT&T, that they were going to wire 5.5 million, I think it was, homes with fiber by the year 2000. What year is it again?
That's the rub, isn't it? It's like, fine if you don't want to do this, but like, give the money back.
Yes.
Because you're clearly not holding your end of the bargain up.
As of 2006, the average amount of money that the telecoms had benefited was over $5,000 per subscriber household. That number is probably even more by now. And those tax breaks were literally to run fiber. They say that 10 megabit and copper is plenty good enough, which, as we know from our audience from all the rest of the world, it is transformational to your economy if your internet isn't at garbage tier speeds.
It's true.
What would you name him? Patchy?
Talking about the
AT&T.
snail?
Something to do with cat? Yeah, I'm naming the snail.
Oh.
You name the snail, chat. And with that in mind, this sounds really good. Now, to be fair, a lot of presidents make a lot of promises that sound really good, but hey, if he can deliver this, I will
That'd be
certainly give him credit for it.
Biden infrastructure plan promises broadband to all within 8 years. Hopefully this will be like the moon landing, where it was basically a done deal by the time the president that promised it left office. But I have my doubts. On the one hand, some of this seems like a copy-paste from the Clinton administration when they were like, woo, everybody's going to get this. And that's the thing that we're always complaining about. The thing I was just complaining about, yeah.
Well, this is going to go toward municipal government-run broadband, and normally when you say government-run, you vomit with fear of how bad it's going to be, but it's already so bad. They might actually do better.
The problem with this approach, though, is that there's not any legal infrastructure in place that prevents the incumbent telecoms from suing the state and local governments to prevent them from doing this. Because technically under U.S. law, that's the government competing with a business, which is like one of those, 17 deadly sins for
Well,
government.
it's state level, so they can fight it at the state level, but with this, they couldn't fight it at the federal level.
That didn't really work at the federal level either for like the whole drug law thing.
Yeah, but presumably this would somehow change that. So
I think they should have preemptively passed laws to deal with it and then shoved it down states' throats if they were going to take that approach. So 8 years is going to stretch into 20 years.
I don't think we should set the precedent of destroying states' rights over this. As important as this is to me,
I'm operating under the assumption that they've already been destroyed by the war on drugs, and but yeah, you're probably right.
this one is a little bit older, but we already talked about them having this, but this just reiterated how difficult it was to get answers out of these people. And basically they went through and just showcased that nobody answered a question, no matter how angry everybody else got and said yes or no. No one cared.
Congress questioned big tech CEOs for 5 hours without getting any good answers. We did report on this last week, but this article on Engadget really stands out as summarizing what was actually said. I mean, it was a whole bunch of nothing, but this is a good summary.
And just points out, I mean, they even went so far as to be like, do you understand yes or no? And they didn't give me a yes or no answer. So it's the problem is you benefit from just, trying to fool everybody and not giving an answer. That's way better than giving the true answer.
And like, this is one of those fights that you read about and it's like, wow, I really dislike both sides of this issue. Like he was tweeting, Dorsey was tweeting, I guess, during this, and he was like, why isn't anyone asking me about my other project? And it's like, dude, come on.
But they weren't even there for that.
Maybe he thought it was a PR joke.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares about Jack Dorsey? The problem with Jack Dorsey, the problem with all of them, and this gentleman here, is that the cult worships them. And that creates in their mind the idea that they should be worshipped. It's all of your fault. All of you Elon Musk idiots in the comments, this is what you get. This is what you get when you raise people up like that.
Weird nerds, valid criticism.
Yeah.
I love that meme.
But this one, you got to wonder, there's sometimes when you are instructed to do something and it's stupid and it might even be bad for the project or the company or just the world, but people more powerful than you insist that you do it. I have a feeling that the legal team felt that when they were trying to do this case.
Apple loses bid to stop Swatch using Jobs' one more thing queue. What is Swatch? That's Swiss Watch. I didn't know that.
Huh. Swiss
Watch is saying just one more thing in their ads because, it's a Swiss timepiece. That's first of the iWatch. And they've got the right to use just one more thing in the UK.
Why would anybody have the right to use just one more thing? It's just a phrase. It's a phrase that people have been using for a long time. They point out if anybody should own it, it should be whoever wrote Columbo. Because that was always Columbo's thing. Is like, there's just one thing bothering me. You turn around and then boom, you were done. You didn't want to hear Columbo say that. But Jobs always used it as like, oh, we're not going to announce the new thing. We're going to do the whole program. And then right before it's all over, I'm going to drop it on you. So they felt that was iconic enough.
That might be brainwashing.
I hate Apple. And in China, they also have a contentious relationship with some of their corporations. Although it's not the ISPs. They've got those all wrapped up. It's these pesky Western companies that love to do business over there, but don't always get in line the way they're told to.
China is erasing H&M from the internet amid Xinjiang backlash. Xinjiang. Sorry.
So H&M, when they say erase from the internet, you might be thinking, oh, did they block their domains? No. If you are an H&M product, you are no longer on Alibaba or any of those other big things. The search results will not return for you. They are literally erasing them because they're angry at something they did.
1984 style, which is amazing. We have the technology. And guess what? Western companies built that technology for China mostly.
Most of the clothes from H&M are probably made in China as well, so.
It's a global operation.
Haven't they moved most of that to Vietnam at this point? I think most clothing's made there, right?
Well, China keeps claiming Vietnamese islands, so.
Well, I think China, they've got enough of a middle class now that a lot of people don't want to work in those factories. So yeah, a lot of it's cheaper to get it done in like Bangladesh or Vietnam.
Excellent segue, Krista, because I think China is working hard to replace those people who aren't willing to work in factories anymore.
Foreshadowing.
And they're doing it in one of the worst ways possible.
Facebook is saying that Chinese hackers used the platform to hack Uyghurs abroad. Facebook's head of cyber espionage said it found and removed fewer than 500 accounts that sent malicious links to Uyghurs as part of an extremely targeted operation. And this is on NBC News. NBC News is picking up on this.
So what they do, and this is smart, I guess. It's really, really evil, but it's smart. They'll establish an account for some period of time, so it'll stand up to a background check. And this account will pretend to be a reporter who is very sympathetic to the Uyghur plight. And once they feel like it's got enough traction, then that identity will contact a Uyghur who's made it out of China and be like, we need to talk, but we need to be super careful. Install this.
Oh.
And then it's all over.
Not related at all, but this guy's face masks has Comic Sans. Free my people with the tone of happy birthday to my 3-year-old.
If it gets it noticed, I guess.
Yeah.
They probably didn't think too much about
The font.
as they
The
were
font was free, I imagine, so.
as they were weeping openly as they made the mask, thinking of their disappeared and or dead family and or enslaved. We talked about the chip fabs that may be coming to America. Not anytime soon because it takes a really long time to build those. But hey, be great if we got them right. But we are not the only country who wants those delicious chip fabs. And some are willing to pay big.
Reuters reports that $1 billion for every chip maker who makes in India, sources say. India is offering $1 billion in cash to each semiconductor company that sets up manufacturing units in the country and seeks to build on smartphone assembly industry and strengthen its electronics supply chain. So we know that the fabs here in Arizona, Intel's going to spend $20 billion. TSMC is going to spend $100 billion, foreshadowing for another story. $1 billion is kind of a drop in the bucket, but maybe that's enough incentive to bring some fabs there.
Yeah, but that cheap labor. Plus, they're going to give you preferred pricing inside of India. Anybody buying locally will be and might be forced to use your stuff. And there was something else they were going to give you in terms of interest-free loans. Well,
they've learned from the Foxconn Apple debacle where they just didn't pay anybody for months. So I think there are going to be some conditions before you get that payout.
Well, we'll see. Why doesn't everybody just get a fab? Let's get too many chips. Make them cheap. Myanmar, they're still having their issues. Doesn't seem like, that's one of those things where when it first happened, I kind of thought, is anybody going to do anything about this? And it was like, oh, no, they don't have oil.
Yeah, no one's interested in
going to do
helping
anything. So it seems like they're the new government, and they're also not taking their boot off the neck of these people anytime soon.
Myanmar orders wireless internet shutdown until further notice, according to telecoms. So that's pretty much all there is in this article. That's all we know, because that seems like it's been pretty effective at cutting off information coming out of the zone.
This article's really like just a paragraph long. Like it's barely an article.
And yet, that would be massive news if you lived there.
Yeah.
You'd be super bummed about that.
You wouldn't be able to do your job in our case if you don't have internet.
Just think when they get internet back, the quarantine will be over.
Well, it's just wireless at this point, but that's still a huge part of your day.
Yeah.
So, unfortunate. Now, when I saw this headline, I thought that it was a story that we had already done, but I looked at the date and I was like, wait a minute. No, this is not that same story. It happened again.
The feds say that man broke into public water system and shut down the safety process. Indictment underscores the potential for remote intrusions that have fatal consequences. So this has been an investigation that's been going on for a while, but this is the first the first wind of it that we've gotten. So
this guy used to work there, and everybody used the same TeamViewer password and account. On they said it was a version of Windows that was no longer secure. I wonder which version do you think that
XP.
Was it XP or 7?
Yeah.
Almost certainly XP.
And they all used the same account to connect to it. When he left, the password was not changed, so he was able to do whatever he wanted. And much like the guy from before, he went in there and messed around with the filtration levels and like the added chemicals that probably would have been damaging to human health if it hadn't gotten caught.
That's crazy.
I don't know what you hope to gain from that. Is that just
maybe
watching the
he's
world
like,
burn?
Whoever works here after me will not have to deal with the same crap I do because they'll be so paranoid about someone doing what I just did that they'll actually fund this department.
I bet they'll fix that system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that part of Biden's thing is money for water districts and stuff that don't have any money to fix this kind of thing.
Yeah, infrastructure is the big It's the lion's share of all that stuff.
The bad thing is going to be, though, that there's going to be a bunch of snake oil salesmen that know how to play the game for the bureaucracy and the paperwork, but don't actually really fix the problem as effectively as they could with the money.
Well, I think that's true of everything to do with the highway department and infrastructure. I mean, you waste so much money getting that done.
Think how many times they've fixed the street behind the office. How much money they've put into that, and it's still floods.
Our interstates are really bad shape right now. Yeah. They are just chewed up from that winter.
We had that ice storm and everything else.
So yeah, let's get those fixed. Whatever. It's better than the pork spending, right? Overspend on something we need, fine. Just stop giving it to other countries, maybe.
Yeah. In theory, too, that would give people jobs, which would also be good.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You got to put everybody back to work, and
maybe if you take your local water company takes the money to secure their stuff, they have to go with a company that's like in state or, is not one of those companies that just siphons up government contracts and doesn't actually do much with them.
We'll see. We've moved on to security, and the Google Play Store, certainly not a paragon of security. When you think about the most secure things on the internet, that's not one of them.
It's literally unusable. Like, you can't, the Google Play Store might as well not exist. It is so dangerous to install apps from it.
And they're trying to improve that image. This is a baby step, I would say, but hey, it's a step, right?
Google Play limiting Android 11 Plus apps from seeing what's installed on devices this May. No, never mind that Java has all these amazing built-in wonderful sandbox protections. We're not going to use that. We're going to do our own thing.
So if you install an app right now, that app can call a function that will tell you what other apps are on the phone. There could be real uses for that. There could be reasons you would need that.
It can scan the file system.
Yeah, there's a lot of just profile building probably going on from this. And there's a lot of things that you can infer based on the apps that I have installed. So this is probably a good move. They're not happy about it. The other app makers, I mean. But if you have a little bit of feel good in your heart for the evil empire that is Google after that headline, let me just take that back from you.
Just stamp it out.
Google collects 20 times more telemetry from Android devices than the same apps on iOS. What does that tell you?
Well, it could be that they take more. It could be that they're less efficient about it. It could be that they just, their files that they use for telemetry are just bigger. I guess that would go to the efficiency.
One of the things in the article that I thought was disturbing was every 4.5 minutes, your Android phone is constantly phoning home. But it is worth noting that they did throw Apple under the bus here a little bit as well, because even on an Apple device, as soon as you insert the SIM card, it not only will tell Apple what the IMEI number, the serial number is of the thing that was inserted. It'll tell Apple all of the MAC addresses of all of the wireless devices around the phone. So it's like you plug in your phone, and it's like the phone can see all the wireless traffic, whether it's encrypted or not. It knows it's there, and it's like, oh, I see all this stuff. It's like, do you really need to report that even before the phone has been registered to a human being? That seems a little obsessive.
The first 4 minutes in Android will cost you 1 megabyte. So you boot your phone, even for the first time, 1 megabyte of data is being transacted to spy on you. Pretty impressive. And based on...
Not the adjective I would have chosen, but...
And, think about how much text that is.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
The collected works of Shakespeare are 1.2 megabytes.
So that's something. Ubiquiti had a little bit of a problem. That is, they said it was a little bit of a problem. Other people are saying perhaps more of a problem.
Whistleblower, Ubiquiti breach has catastrophic. There's an article here from Krebs on Security. It's really not super clear exactly the extent of the problem. Ubiquiti says it was a third-party contracting system, but out of an abundance of caution, they're having everybody reset their password. It says that they were, they were threatened with extortion and all this other stuff. So it's really anybody's guess as to what exactly made its way out. They apparently didn't have the appropriate logging set up in their infrastructure. So it's possible the attackers could have downloaded source code, at least according to the stuff in this article and some other stuff that I read on the internet. So if they've got the source code to all the stuff that runs this, it seems like they would be in a good spot to find vulnerabilities or mistakes.
And the logging thing is one of the things they kind of nailed into the wall here, because their response was something like, we have found no indication of this. But the truth is, they weren't logging what would be the indication of that. So the absence of it means nothing. They weren't watching.
If you've been following this channel for a while, I've sort of given Ubiquiti a hard time because of their lack of quality control in their other products. It's nice to know that it extends to the entire company. Seems like.
And Krebs is that's a name that has become somewhat synonymous with security. You know, he certainly does a lot of work for it. But when you are at the top of that pile, you become a big name and perhaps a target yourself.
No, I did not hack your MS Exchange server. New data suggests that someone has compromised more than 21,000 Microsoft Exchange email servers worldwide and infected them with malware that makes both Krebs on security and yours truly by name. No, it wasn't him. So
well, but what if it was? Wouldn't that be brilliant?
The antivirus makers are making the viruses. Ah! That's not even what Brian Krebs does. He just, he's basically a consultant, I think.
So at this point, if you're still
analyst,
if you're not taking that Exchange server stuff seriously, you've got no hope.
No,
might as well just turn it off, because it's going to be.
It's already too late.
And this is the most disturbing trend, perhaps, in the programming world, especially web development, because we have all of these libraries, and it's very difficult to get anything started without loading a billion of these things. It's really annoying. And who can you trust? More and more, it seems like no one.
Critical flaw found in widely used Netmask open source module. This is like a Node.js thing. It helps compute netmasks if you need that in your project. And it was a mistake, I guess, in the regular expression to figure this out, which leads to a lot of problems.
It was this was the one with the IP address, right?
Yeah.
So 0127 should actually not result in dropping the 0. That's the error. It does, which can break it. So bad move. Krista, swap the next 2 stories, please.
Oh no.
Because you might think to yourself, okay, I get it. Libraries can be poison, dangerous. You know what? I'm just going to do it all from scratch. I'm just going to choose a language and write everything myself, and then I'll be sure, right? Right?
PHP's Git server hacked to add backdoors to PHP source code. I'm pretty sure that I saw one of the developers after this tweeting, hey, is there a way to make GitHub only accept PGP signed commits? And it turns out, yes, that's a checkbox. That's all that is. There's a checkbox there that's like signed commits, accept those. But this has not actually been deployed in any PHP version. This wasn't there for months and then found. Somebody got access to somebody else's credentials, added the backdoor, and it was noticed immediately. So it didn't make it into any actual distributed version of PHP. But it does say that somebody that shouldn't have had access to PHP's Git repository.
And that was their own Git server. They have now moved to GitHub from their own because of that. It's a coup for Microsoft, isn't it? And this points out that, as I have pointed out in the past, the systems in your home are never secure if there are children in the home.
Child tweets gibberish from U.S. nuclear agency account. No, it wasn't code to installed spies overseas. There you go.
I saw this story and was like,
That looks like an excellent password.
I was just going to say, is anybody using that as a password now? Because that would be funny.
What's the nuclear launch code? Oh, there you go.
So yeah, if you're running a high-profile government Twitter account, when you go stand up to pee or get something to drink, lock the screen.
That's insane. I mean, I guess he's working from home, but like, why would you not lock your? Who doesn't do that? Just
Well, if
out
you're
of,
a
like-
social media manager, you're probably working kind of around the clock, don't you think?
I've actually had a butt tweet or two.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you
How does
didn't
that
use the
even
mobile.
happen?
On the mobile web, like it somehow my phone woke up because usually my phone goes to sleep and requires a fingerprint or a code after about 30 seconds, and somehow like I put my phone to sleep and I put it in my pocket, and I must have gotten a notice or something at exactly the right time, and then I butt tweeted somehow.
Impressive.
Yeah, it was like, how does
If you
this
ever
even
see a
happen?
message like that from Wendell, you'll know.
Maybe you can solve that problem by getting yourself a nice Apple Watch.
The Apple Watch is like, your phone is awake.
But that's not all it can do. And I put this in the security section because just imagine what the healthcare industry would do with this information in the insurance industry. It always comes back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple Watch can accurately assess frailty, finds Stanford study. So basically, it's got an accelerometer. It's always on. It's measuring your motions. Instinctively, whether you know it or not, you're going to move a little bit slower, a little bit more cautiously. Maybe after you get that first round of the vaccine, it's like, oh, my head's swimming a little bit. What's going on? Your Apple Watch knows, and that's going in your permanent file.
Well, it needs 6 minutes of moderate activity to be able to set this. But once it gets that, based on all the things that it can measure, it can supposedly give you a pretty good idea of your level of what they call frailty, which I guess is kind of like, okay, if the caldera went off today, how likely are you to make it? That's the way I look at that.
I like our distance from Yellowstone for that, but
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't get us. It'd be the ash.
Yeah.
That would be it'd be a lot easier to go in the lava, I would think. Is it lava or magma? It's lava once it hits the top, right?
Yeah.
Never can remember that. The Ministry of Health. It's always so dystopian to hear those names. I know they've been around for a long time, but
this is New Zealand. It doesn't count.
they had a little problem with their system. I think we talked about that last week, and now they've vowed that they're going to clean it up.
Yeah, after getting all that negative publicity last week, the headline this week is the Ministry of Health has launched a sweeping new review of how they're handling the vaccine booking systems. Yeah, New Zealand, it's like, okay, well, we did a good job handling the lockdown, but we didn't really do a good job so far of everything else.
Is there any shining example of who did a good job with the vaccines yet? I've only seen failures.
Well, not failures, but it's just a cluster. It's like
it's a big administrative task to try and distribute all that.
you ever see those old Black Friday sale videos where like Walmart opens up at like 4:00 in the morning and then the doors just explode off their hinges?
Yeah.
Of course, I love those.
It's like that, but with the vaccine.
But it's not like that because a lot of people aren't interested at all. Well, I guess that's true of Black Friday as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sane people are like, yeah, you guys go get it. And then keep me updated. See what happens with you.
Wendell, have you gotten your second dose yet?
No, my mom got hers though. She's been fine.
Your time's not up yet, right? You got
It
a
is-
week left.
No, it is, but they give you an extra week or two for whatever reason. So today would have been the second week.
How was her second round?
She slept all day the second day, but is basically okay.
Cool.
I don't want to lose a day.
She's like, I have to have Tylenol, and then she's just like, okay, I took a nap. It's fine.
I hate nap.
If you are somebody who is saying to yourself, man, I just don't trust these vaccines, and maybe you're one of those people who makes your own pet food, makes your own baby food, and you happen to have a really, really state-of-the-art lab in your house that no one actually has, then maybe you could just use this instead.
Stanford
Easy.
scientists reverse engineer the vaccine and post the code on GitHub. This may actually end up being used in countries, because I was reading that some countries are going to have to wait until 2022, which seems
Insane.
not great for the rest of the world.
Do they have the manpower and the equipment to do this?
Sometimes. I mean, think about like some of the South African nations.
So they were very clear. They're like, look, we didn't waste any vaccine to do this. There was some drops left and ones that we had already administered. We carefully collected all those till we had enough to run it through and figure out what it was. We're not trying to undercut anybody, but this is important. The world should know about this. So far, GitHub hasn't taken it down. I imagine the Moderna lawyers are making some calls.
Foaming at the mouth.
But that is real bad PR.
Yeah.
You got to keep that in mind. People are not going to like to hear that you are trying to. What you're obviously trying to do is make billions of dollars off of this. But you have to pretend you're not. Be careful. Because if something terrible were to happen, that's when the backlash comes. You have to worry. You can let a terrible problem fester for years and years and years unless Vice decides to do an article about it. Then you're in trouble. Then you have to take the minimal steps that you could have done all along to actually fix the problem.
T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T stop SMS hijacks after a motherboard investigation. So if you didn't see that story, it turns out that for $16 you could have gone on a website and said, I have the right to receive text messages from this phone number. And they would happily turn that on. And then Motherboard was like, this seems wrong. And then AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile said, oh, yeah, that was totally unintentional. I guess we'll turn that off.
We're committed to your privacy. We're so sorry.
And you think about, I've tried to get away from SMS for my 2 factors, but I do still have a couple. You are so screwed if they get that.
Yeah.
Because, okay, they've got your account, and now they've got your email. Who do you call? There's nobody you're going to get on the phone with.
Mm-mm.
Google literally doesn't care. The algorithm is literally running our lives more and more every day. And whatever the algorithm says goes, because you just can't. It's like getting mad at a river and going out and just, yelling at the river as it flows around you, as you stand naked in the freezing water.
It's exactly like that. And finally, we keep finding out more and more about the SolarWinds hack. Gosh, it was so out of fashion there for a while. I mean, the exchange hack was so much hotter. But we still get these details leaking out about how bad SolarWinds was, and we never even knew the depth of it.
SolarWinds hack got the emails of top DHS officials. No, that's just the email addresses, right? That's not really a big deal. No, sweet summer child, no. They got so much.
Now, they said that they have not yet estimated how bad these leaks were. Like, did these people have a lot of really sensitive stuff in their emails? But I imagine the answer is yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
So we probably won't hear more about that, though.
Between that and exchange, it's just that's the 1-2 punch of what's gonna be number 3 for the trifecta.
Well, they almost got PHP. That would have been a big one.
I think the commit was just so obvious, though, that it was the only thing in the commit.
What if that commit was just to cover up the real hack?
Well, there's a smoke screen. There's like a double equal in there when it should be a triple equal or something crazy like that. Yeah.
Well, that's all we got for today. Tomorrow, we might just do all business. I think we might sneak in another small section in there. Don't actually know yet.
There wasn't really a lot of government news this week.
Kind of a weird week for news. I think people were. It gets like that, it swells up and then it ebbs. I think people were a little oversaturated after the canal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need a little bit of a break.
Well, I mean, that's all old news. I mean, that ship has sailed.
Just been waiting all episode to make that joke.
All right, Krista, take us out.
All right. Bye.